In this video, we'll cover Week 12 for both NFL Survivor and NFL DFS with full cash lineups on DraftKings and FanDuel. It's a full show, so it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, I want to thank all those folks that are supporting our show, and we had a lot of new subscribers. We didn't quite reach our 12,000 goal, so what we're going to do is we're going to give you the Survivor and NFL DFS lineup all in this show. We'll timestamp it, so those that are only interested in NFL DFS, you can go directly to that. But right now, we're covering NFL Survivor. And then there are 7 games that we think you should be considering for Week 12. They are 3 really double-digit favorites. Baltimore at home, 14-point favorites over the New York Jets. Seattle is 13-point favorites at Tennessee. Detroit's at home, 10.5-point favorites over the New York Giants. New England at Cincinnati, 7.5-point favorites. And San Francisco, home to Carolina, are 6.5-point favorites. And then finally, we have 2 field goal favorites. Chicago hosting Pittsburgh and Las Vegas hosting Cleveland. Whew, Michael, we're at this stage where people have already picked 11 teams, so we want to try to be as broad as as possible and be able to help people regardless of who they've picked. Let's start with the first 3 games. We've got Baltimore, Seattle, and Detroit. Likely they've used some or maybe even all. But fair to say, is there any of these games that concern you if you had this team available?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Baltimore at home against a really down Jets team without their top wide receiver and kind of knowing how to focus against Breece Hall. I think that's pretty solid. Seattle on the road, that's the only thing to say there, but it's Tennessee. I know how you feel about Tennessee. And there's some trouble in New York as well, even with Jameis Winston trying to come to the rescue. Detroit, had a little bit of a rough game against the Eagles, but I think they're going to come home and like they usually do and bounce back.
I think the Baltimore pick is a very interesting one because it all is about the quarterbacks to me. Because it looks like Justin Fields is going to be benched, and Tyrod Taylor, I think, is actually an upgrade over Fields. Now, Baltimore, the very next week, week 13, face Cincinnati. They host Cincinnati. The question is, will we know by the end of this week whether Joe Burrow will be back for that week? So I could conceivably see if Tyrod Taylor, maybe if you especially have another team on this list that you feel really comfortable with, you want to save Baltimore for next week. But if you still have Baltimore, you need to play them this week or next week. And I don't advise you playing them next week if Burrow is playing. So that's interesting. Yeah, and I think my Seahawks. Look, guys, they are not going to lose to Tennessee. I may not show up next week if Seattle loses to Tennessee. And who's going to be the quarterback? I feel a little bit. I think based on the spread, they think that Jackson Dart is not going to play. And I'd feel more comfortable in that case. This Giant team has come close in a lot of games. They're not a bad team, even with all the injuries that they've had.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But Detroit is tough at home, and they're going to want to come back from that tough loss on I guess it was Sunday night and get themselves a win.
So my order of these 3 teams: Seattle, Baltimore, Detroit. Your order, just in case they had multiple of these teams.
Yeah, I would say the same, partly because of the teams that they're playing against. I know Seattle's on the road, and Darnold did not look good against the Rams in LA, but he seemed to have done really well against lesser teams, even on the road.
It's how good that Seattle team looks, right? Despite 4 interceptions, they had a chance to win in LA, a very good team, the LA Rams. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's look at that next set of games. We've got New England at Cincinnati and San Francisco versus Carolina. Wow, one of the biggest surprises this year is this New England Patriots team. A lot of people may have already used them, but this is a nice spot, I think, to get them. Joe Burrow is out and now serving a 1-game suspension. Jamar Chase is out. So if you still have New England, especially like you're deciding between New England and Baltimore, and you feel like you want to save Baltimore for next week if Burrow is going to be out, I have no problem with you going with New England. You are giving up them hosting the Giants in Week 13 and the Jets and at the Jets in Week 17.
Yeah, I actually, you might argue that this is a little bit of a disrespect to New England in terms of where the spread is at. I agree with you. This is the week, even though it's in Cincinnati, to take advantage of Cincinnati before they might get Burrow back and obviously Jamar Chase back.
So you have almost as much confidence in New England to pull this out than some of the games we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think New England has the ability to pull away like some of these other teams do. So I could understand why the spread might be a little bit lower. But yeah, in terms of win-loss, yeah, I feel really good about New England winning this game.
What about San Francisco at home against Carolina? Carolina at one time was looking half decent, and now I feel like I've lost some confidence in it.
Yeah, but I mean, Bryce Young's coming off a career high in terms of yards. They've really figured out how to use Dowdle in this office and also McMillan. He's looking really good. But you know who else is really looking good? It's Christian McCaffrey. Other than some of the injuries that they've had to survive, the Niners are looking pretty solid. And, I think Brock Purdy back is a big deal. So I think San Francisco should win this game. Also feel pretty good about their ability to win hands down.
Is there
Yes.
someone else that you like, Michael, that's not more than one of these five?
No.
No, okay.
The
And
answer is no. And, I think most people do have the Niners still available to them. And so to me, that seems like the obvious pick for people who might have lost those first four.
yeah, now I didn't include on the list Buffalo, who's playing at Houston, Green Bay, who's hosting Minnesota, and the LA Rams, who are hosting Tampa Bay. Both because I think most people have used those teams, and two, I don't really love that matchup of any of those teams, and they've got much better matchups down the road. So my thought is if you want to take a chance this week and save some of these other teams for whatever reason, we've got three games, two which I already disclosed: Chicago hosting Pittsburgh and Las Vegas hosting Cleveland. And you know what? Just because I'm never going to get the opportunity, Michael, I'm going to throw New Orleans in there. New Orleans is actually a favorite, 1.5, at home against Atlanta. I'm not doing that. But I just throw it out there for consideration because I believe no one has used New Orleans. I don't think anyone has likely used Las Vegas, and most people haven't used Chicago. Any thoughts on any of these three games?
Yeah, interesting you bring up New Orleans. Penix is out. It looks like Drake London is going to be out as well. So what? You just load up the box and make sure Bijan doesn't hurt you because Kirk Cousins looks pretty bad. But he's done this, he's looked bad coming in for the most part off the bench. Will he be better, prepared? I think obviously there was one game that he came in as a starter. If I had to pick one of these games, I guess I would pick the Chicago game, just because Jalen Warren's a little bit banged up and Aaron Rodgers is he going to play this week? Do we know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's something definitely to watch.
Yeah, so I think that makes a difference. I mean, the Chicago team, obviously, their record is good. They have been winning games and close games and coming back. They have, I think, for the most part, everybody helped. Swift is back. Their defenses look good. The wild card in that game is the Pittsburgh defense. That Pittsburgh defense is really strong. Um, uh, uh, what's his name? The defensive back did not get suspended. It was just Jamar Chase. Is that correct from that spitting match?
That I believe it was just Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
So, so Michael, you said some nice things about the Seahawks. Yeah, they were playing Tennessee. You know what? I'm going to return the favor. More than the Chicago game, I like your Las Vegas Raiders. Or maybe a better way to say is I don't like the Cleveland Browns.
I should have.
Dylan Gabriel looks like he is going to miss that game. That's the news you got. I wanna watch. Sanders does not look like he's ready for prime time yet.
No.
4 of 16, no touchdowns and an interception. Granted, it was the Baltimore defense. Isn't it good as your Las? Is this better than your Vegas defense? But I feel pretty good. Your team is pretty healthy again, right? Brock Bowers is back. So I'm a little nervous that you don't have more confidence in your own team. But tell me
Well, really,
why.
it's I don't have confidence in your old quarterback. He's looked so bad. It's been really frustrating as a Raider fan to see how bad he's been this year. And you can tell he's afraid to get hurt. He kind of has the same thing that a lot of these older quarterbacks have. There's just not a willingness to put themselves out there at all, and that's a problem. And so, they can't get. I think Gianti's averaging 1.2 yards per carry before contact, which is by far the lowest in the NFL. The Raiders defense has done well against lesser teams, and Cleveland is certainly a lesser team. Are they, if they win this game, should they win this game? Yes. If they win this game, is it going to be a blowout? I would be surprised. I just don't think they have the ability to blow anybody out. Most people are picking the Niners this week, I think. I feel that way because they don't have some of these other teams available. The Niners do have Tennessee in 2 weeks, so they do have some future value. But I think that's a week that there's, other options, but that's probably the best option that week.
So we've advised on this show for several weeks to save Baltimore for this week because we said if you've already used Seattle. So I think this is going to be an easy conversation for all our people. Now come through and pick go with Baltimore. I give them Detroit is about a not Detroit, the Jets about the lowest chance to win as you can imagine one NFL team having against another NFL team.
Yep.
All right, folks, we want to hear from you guys. Go ahead and enter in the comment section who you like for week 12. And we love hearing your situation. Say like, hey, I've already used these teams and I'm trying to decide between this team and this team. And I think I'm going this direction. But always remember to watch for late breaking news. All right, it's time to move to NFL DFS. All right, everybody, we are going to cover NFL DFS for DraftKings and FanDuel, full lineups, first DraftKings, and then we'll do FanDuel. And Michael, for the first time during this season, it is so nice to have you along for the ride. So let's go through the lineup. Our cover boy in both our DraftKings and FanDuel lineup is Jahmyr Gibbs. Michael, this guy is $8,300 on DraftKings, but he is such a talent and so explosive, and he's in a dream matchup. He's a home favorite, 10.5 points, like we said on Survivor, and a ridiculous implied total of 30. You get this guy out in space, and he is going to run for days. So it's going to cost us a lot. So we're going to pair him with someone that we can save money with, and we will pair him with Trevion Henderson. So things didn't get much better for him. It doesn't get much better than last week. Absolutely dominating. Definitely benefited from Ramondre Stevenson being out. Now we got to watch the news. I still like this pick if Stevenson plays. I love it if Stevenson is out. The price is just too cheap at $6,700, and he has the dream matchup facing Cincinnati, dead last against running backs. So we've got Henderson and saving some money there. And our last running back we're going to put in the flex position is on the other side of the field, Chase Brown from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, Chase Brown finally getting utilized a little bit better in Cincinnati. We're going to pick on both these games a lot. Just a little preview for you all. Yeah, I love these picks. You have to get Jahmyr Gibbs in the lineup. Even against the Eagles, you saw that he was the one shining star for Detroit this last week. To me, he's one of the most consistent week in, week out with tons of upside, especially in PPR leagues. Got to get him in, and like these other two picks as well. Good start, Eric. Let's go with it.
Yeah, 3 workhorses and good matchups. So let's save a little money at quarterback. And Michael, I'd love an explanation for what DraftKings is doing. Folks, just cover up the name. I think some people look at Jacoby Brissett, Michael, and go, I don't know about that. Just cover up the name and look at the stats. Because he's become starter, 5 straight games he has scored at least 20 fantasy points on DraftKings, and he's in another great matchup. He's playing at home against a weak Jacksonville defense, 27th against the pass. Jacoby Brissett can contribute with his legs as well as his arm. And when they get behind, which happens a lot, they do not have trouble, Michael, putting the ball in the air. And let's move over to at tight end, Travis Kelce at $5,000. I would love your opinion on this, Michael. It seems as Kansas City realizes the importance of a game as we get into crunch time in the playoff run, um, they rely more on Travis Kelce. They relied heavily in the big divisional game last week against Denver. They have another big game at home against playoff-bound Indianapolis Colts. $5,000 is just way too cheap in this matchup. He's a home favorite. Very good implied total of 26.5. What do you think about the Brissett and Kelce picks?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously Brissett has just performed fantasy wise week in and week out. They come from they're needing to come back in those games. They don't have much of a run game right now, and Brissett, he's serviceable and he's obviously getting fantasy points. And so, it would be tempting to be able to get Jalen Hurts in there if we could afford him going up against Dallas, who's been giving up the most to fantasy quarterbacks. But I'm not sure we lose too much with Brissett because Hurts relies so much on the tush push. And then on the tight end side, the only guy who I'm looking at much more than Kelsey is Brissett's counterpart in Trey McBride, and we can't afford him. So I like what you're saying, and Kansas City can't afford to lose this game. They got to try and win this game.
Yeah, I'm never going to say anything negative about Trey McBride. That guy is a super talent, but we just decided to prioritize guys like Gibbs in our lineup. All right, so let's move to our wide receivers. All solid wide receivers in decent matchups, but no superstars. So Jamison Williams, man, this guy is a real talent. I don't know, something in the head a little bit. He made a really silly penalty in jumping on the goalpost, which cost them a point last game. But forget about that. Just the talent and the price you just love at 5,700. This Detroit Lion offense is simply better at home. They got a good matchup here against the Giants, and on the other hand, we've got Devontae Smith. I'm a Devontae Smith owner. Let me tell you, Michael, he's the number one wide receiver this year. Didn't do much last week because I think they were trying to force feed A.J. Brown, who's been disgruntled all year. Now he's got to me, the perfect matchup. A Dallas Cowboys team that actually can put points on the board, but has a terrible defense, the 31st against wide receivers. $5,600 is criminal price for Devontae Smith, in my opinion. Your thought?
Yeah, I can't believe he's this cheap. Got to get him in there at this price against that Dallas defensive backfield. Now, I will say Dallas's defensive backfield has improved ever so slightly with a couple of these guys coming back and getting healthy. Bland looked a little bit better this last week against the Raiders, but maybe that's not so hard to do.
All right, believe it or not, they both were way outplayed by the cheapest wide receiver in our lineup, Michael Wilson, who truly benefited from Marvin Harrison being out, just went absolutely nuts. I don't expect 15 catches and 18 targets and 185 yards, even if Harrison doesn't come back. But $4,800 is just too much of a bargain for Michael Wilson. So we've got him in the lineup. Any comments about Wilson?
No, I mean, let's just get half the performance this week. We'll be happy.
And finally, you know us, we want to go dirt cheap on defenses. So when we scroll to the bottom, I'm a little surprised that the Colts were only $2,400. I like them substantially more than any of the other defenses that are down there, the Titans, the Bengals, the Giants, and the Jets. You can see that put pressure on the quarterback. 3 sacks, 4 sacks, 3 sacks. And you say, yeah, Kansas City has a good offense, but Kansas City throws the ball. And you get your points against offense when you have a good defense against offenses that take chances in the passing game. So I'm happy with that. We used every dollar to make this lineup. All right, so that is our DraftKings lineup. Let's move over to FanDuel. All right, on FanDuel, we're going to have the same 3 running backs. That is Gibbs, Henderson, and Chase Brown. But we're going to quarterback, we're going to change it up, and I'm pretty excited to get Pat Mahomes in our lineup. Gosh, he's in a great matchup. Home favorite, 26.5 point total. Didn't happen the last couple of weeks, but I've been surprised, Michael, that Mahomes have been running the ball a little more than we would anticipate, which really helps his floor. G Rice is back. So and Travis Kelce seems he's engaged. I didn't mean that. Oh, I
Love it.
was
Love
yeah.
it. I love it.
Anyway,
Little slip.
all right. So I'm happy to get Mahomes in the lineup. Let's talk about wide receivers. Was a guy I strongly considered in DraftKings, but DraftKings just priced them up so high at $7,100. So, if you want to go that route, you can. You might be a little confused. Wait a minute, why is T Higgins so great at 7,500? He hasn't done that much, but guess who's not going to be around this week? Jamar Chase, and who's just a ridiculous target hog. T. Higgins should be the number one targeted in this game. So we get the number one wide receiver on a Bengals offense that should put up some points. So I'm happy with that at 7,500. And I want to get you involved after I talk about Stefon Diggs, my personal guy on my fantasy team. He is the number one targeted guy on this New England team. Now, it is true that they have a lot of different players that Drake May can throw to, guys out of the backfield, some other wide receivers, even Hunter Henry. But his main targeted guy is Stefon Diggs at $6,700 is a good price to get him in there.
Yeah, no, I like all those picks, and I think the Higgins pick is clearly they haven't priced in the Jamar Chase suspension, so that's great. Got to take advantage of things like that on these daily fantasy lineups.
Michael, I want to see if you're willing to talk about this next guy because in our own fantasy league, I dropped him, and then all of a sudden you picked him up, and Malik Neighbors got hurt. So all of a sudden, he's always a high targeted guy, but they rely on him even more. Your thoughts on Wandale?
Yeah, no, I think he's kind of the go-to possession receiver. So in these PPR half PPR leagues, like the daily fantasies, you got to get guys that are the possession receivers. And so maybe he's not going to go off for 100 plus yards a game, and he doesn't get in the end zone a lot, but he gets a lot of receptions, and that works just fine.
Yeah, for a cash game, and I really like this matchup in a dome in Detroit. Start thinking about that as we're getting close to December weather conditions. But happy to get Robinson in sub 6,000 in our lineup, and sub $5,000 is Kyle Pitts Sr. Has also playing in a dome in New Orleans, and as you pointed out, Drake London won't be playing in this game, so he's one of the going to be has to be one of the key guys that they have to throw to because they just don't have many other guys. And we're going with the New Orleans Saints. They on FanDuel. If we go way down, about bargain basement teams here. The Saints aren't that bad. I mean, they're at home and they face an Atlanta Falcons team that's riddled with injuries. So I think that they're honestly mispriced at $3,200. I wanted to get them on DraftKings, but we couldn't quite afford them. They were $100 more than what we had. So I've endorsed the Saints this week on DraftKings or FanDuel if you want to save money on defense.
Yeah, and I agree. I can't believe they're priced down here this week, so got to take advantage.
All right, folks, that is week 12. Well, Michael, we jam-packed a bunch into this show, NFL Survivor and NFL DFS. We really want your guys' feedback. Tell us what you think of the new format. If there's something you feel like we've shortchanged in our format that we used to do, let us know. We'll try to incorporate that in our next show. And until then, take care, everybody.